There is a structure at the back of your ankle right now that is doing something almost no other animal on Earth can do. Every time you push off the ground, walking, running, climbing stairs, that structure compresses, stores mechanical energy, and releases it back into your stride. It does this for free, no calories burned, no conscious effort required, just pure elastic return, thousands of times a day. A chimpanzee does not have this. A gorilla does not have this. Of the roughly 300 or so species of primate alive today, only one has a fully developed, long Achilles tendon. You are looking at its descendant right now. The research is direct on this point. A 2004 study published in Nature by Bramble and Lieberman concluded that the elongated Achilles tendon is one of a suite of anatomical features that emerged approximately 2 million years ago in the genus Homo, and that this anatomy was specifically adapted to the demands of long-distance running. Your ancestors did not just walk the African landscape. Research into early hominin locomotion suggests they covered terrain continuously, day after day, for over 1 million years. And what they did to their tendons in that time is written into the tissue you are carrying right now. Here is what your Achilles tendon is actually doing when you move. It is not a passive cord, it is a biological spring. When your foot strikes the ground, the tendon stretches and stores mechanical energy, the same principle as compressing a coil. When you push off, that stored energy is released back into your stride. Research published in Scientific Reports in 2021 calculated that this recoil delivers between 7.8 and 11.3 joules of energy back per stride during running. That is energy your muscles did not have to generate. That is forward propulsion, for free. Research cited in the anatomical record estimates that the Achilles tendon can save as much as 35% of the metabolic cost of running. That number is significant. Early humans who could travel further on the same caloric intake were not just fitter, they were more likely to survive. The tendon was not a luxury. It was a competitive advantage, built over millions of years of daily use. The tendon itself is built primarily from type Y collagen. These fibers are arranged in parallel bundles that give the tissue its tensile strength. But here is what most people do not know about collagen in tendons. It does not remodel quickly. Research by Kjær, published in the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports, found that significant structural changes in tendon dimensions require prolonged loading, far longer than what changes muscle. Where a muscle responds to weeks of training, tendon adaptation operates on a timeline of months and years. This is why what prehistoric humans did for 1.5 million years matters specifically to your tendon, not what they did for 1 week, not 1 year, 1.5 million years. For approximately 1.5 to 2 million years, beginning with early members of the genus Homo, your ancestors moved across ground that was irregular, unpredictable, and uneven every single day. Rocky riverbeds, dry cracked earth, loose sand, volcanic rubble. And they did this barefoot. Every variation in ground surface, every small stone, every slope, every soft patch, created a slightly different mechanical demand on the tendon. The load angle changed. The stretch duration changed. The timing of elastic return changed. This variation is not noise. Research indicates it is the signal that drives tendon adaptation. A 2022 twin study published in Frontiers in Physiology found that tendon stiffness varies significantly between individuals, and that adaptation is driven by the nature of the loading stimulus, not just its intensity. Varied terrain is a different stimulus than a flat treadmill. Your ancestors never used a treadmill, and your tendon was not built for one. Here is the part that changes how you think about what is happening to your tendon right now. The Kjær research identified something important about tendon biology. Strain, meaning the actual stretch and deformation of the tendon, is the trigger for collagen synthesis. Not the force alone, not the torque, the strain. And that strain signal does not produce dramatic changes fast. It accumulates over years, over generations, over hundreds of thousands of years of selective pressure. The tendons that handled the highest strain loads most efficiently passed their architecture forward. A 2020 study by McNutt and De Silva, published in the Anatomical Record, used a proxy measurement, the area of the superior calcaneal facet on fossilized heel bones, to estimate Achilles tendon length in extinct hominins. Because tendons do not fossilize, researchers used the bone they anchored to as indirect evidence. The study found that even Australopithecus, the hominin group that preceded the genus Homo, showed calcaneal proportions suggesting a longer, more human-like Achilles tendon than previously thought. By the time Homo erectus emerged around 1.9 million years ago, the evidence points to a well-developed long Achilles tendon as a standard feature of our lineage. Bramble and Lieberman's 2004 Nature paper proposed that selection for endurance running, the ability to cover large distances at moderate pace over hours, was a key factor in the evolution of the genus Homo. The hypothesis centers on what researchers call persistence hunting, pursuing prey over distances long enough that the animal, which cannot sweat efficiently, overheats and slows. Humans can sweat. Humans can breathe independently of stride, and humans have a long Achilles tendon that makes sustained locomotion significantly cheaper, in caloric terms, than it is for any other primate. This is where the biology gets personal. Your tendon is a living tissue. It is not static. Research consistently shows that tendon stiffness and cross-sectional area both respond to mechanical loading. Habitual loading leads to structural improvement. Removal of loading leads to structural decline. A systematic review and meta-analysis published in the journal Physiotherapy Research International in 2015 compiled 37 separate exercise interventions and found consistent evidence that chronic mechanical loading increases tendon stiffness, the property your tendon needs to store and release elastic energy efficiently. Disuse has the opposite effect. Research on immobilization and sedentary behavior confirms that tendon stiffness decreases within weeks of reduced loading. The collagen architecture loses organization. The tissue becomes more compliant, which sounds positive but is not. In a tendon that is designed to store and release energy efficiently, excess compliance means energy is lost as heat rather than returned as propulsion. The spring becomes sponge. And here is the specific problem. Your Achilles tendon was built around a loading pattern that looked like daily sustained movement across varied terrain. Movement that research into early hominin energetics suggests may have covered significant distances day after day. The tissue adapted over 1.5 million years of that stimulus. It has had approximately 200 years of chairs, cushioned shoes, and flat concrete surfaces. That is not enough time to adapt. That is not even close. The Achilles tendon's job is not just force transmission. The calcaneal tuber, the bony prominence at the back of your heel, determines the mechanical moment arm of the tendon. Research into calcaneal morphology in runners, published in the Journal of Human Evolution, found that calcaneal tuber length directly influences how much elastic energy the tendon can store per stride. Shorter moment arms, found in modern humans compared to great apes, are associated with greater elastic energy storage at running speeds. This architecture is yours by inheritance. Whether it functions as designed depends on what you ask it to do. Now picture the life that built this. You wake before full light. The ground beneath you is irregular. Stones, compacted earth, dried grass. There is no footwear. There has never been footwear. As you move to stand, your heel contacts the earth first, your toes splay slightly to find purchase, and somewhere at the back of your ankle, a dense elastic band loads. You feel none of this consciously. It is automatic. The group moves, not at a sprint, at a sustainable pace, the pace that can be maintained for hours without depleting the resources the body needs to keep going. Research into the energetics of early hominin locomotion suggests that hominins like Homo erectus would have been well adapted to this kind of sustained movement, with a body plan that made distance locomotion significantly more efficient than in earlier bipeds. If you were to live this for a single day, you would end it with a tendon that has been loaded and released tens of thousands of times across variable surfaces, variable slopes, variable speeds. The collagen fibers in the tendon would have been strained and recovered. The tenocytes, the cells responsible for maintaining the collagen matrix, would have received the mechanical signal that prompts them to maintain and remodel the tissue. Your tendon would have been used exactly as it was designed to be used. This repeats. Not once, not occasionally, every day, for the entire active life of every individual in the lineage, for 1.5 million years. If you want to understand what that does to a structure made of biological material, consider what the research shows. Habitual loading over extended periods produces robust changes in tendon size, stiffness, and mechanical properties. The Care research states this explicitly, not occasional loading, habitual loading. The key word in the prehistoric context is not intensity, it is consistency. If you have found this useful and want to understand more of what your body is actually running and why it is running it, make sure you are here for the next one. The knowledge compounds. Here is what the research tells you about where your tendon is right now. The tissue you are carrying is structurally identical in design to the tendons your ancestors loaded every day for 1.5 million years. The calcaneal architecture is the same. The collagen fiber arrangement, when healthy and well loaded, is the same. The mechanical potential, the capacity to store and return elastic energy, is the same. What has changed is what you ask of it. Research on tendon disuse and unloading, published in a 2021 review in Science Direct, confirmed that reduced mechanical loading leads to measurable decreases in tendon stiffness and structural integrity. It does not require injury, it requires absence. The absence of the stimulus your tendon was designed around is itself a stressor. This is not a prescription, it is a description of what the biology is. What you do with that information is yours to decide. But if you are asking what the research points toward, it is the same thing the evidence points to for nearly every prehistoric adaptation covered by this kind of science. The structure functions best when it is asked to function in the way it was built. Not perfectly replicated, that is neither possible nor the goal, but recognized, understood, used. The frontiers in physiology research noted that Achilles tendon stiffness is highly variable between individuals, even between identical twins with the same genetics, and that this variation is driven by the loading history the tendon has experienced. Your genetics gave you the architecture. What you do with it determines its current function. The people who built your Achilles tendon into what it is today never had a recovery week. They never tapered, they never foam rolled, they moved every day across ground that demanded constant micro-adaptation, and their tendons, in the survivors, responded by becoming some of the most efficient biological springs ever produced by vertebrate evolution. Research suggests the human Achilles tendon can save up to 35% of the metabolic cost of running when it is functioning as designed. The question worth asking is not whether your tendon has this capacity. It does. The question is whether you are giving it the conditions to express it. What you have in your body is not a relic. It is not a vestigial structure that evolution forgot to remove. It is a precision system that was tested by 1.5 million years of daily use across every terrain type the African continent could produce and refined through survival selection. It is still here. It is still functional. It still contains every property the research describes: elastic storage, collagen architecture, mechanical spring efficiency. The content in this video is educational in nature. It reflects published research and does not constitute medical or clinical advice. If you have a specific tendon injury or concern, consult a qualified health professional. What your ancestors did was not training, it was survival, and the tissue that resulted from 1.5 million years of that survival is the same tissue that is sitting in the back of your ankle right now. The only question is whether you understand what it was designed for, and whether that changes anything about how you use it. The next video in this series examines something that happens in your body before you even register danger, a sequence your nervous system inherited from exactly the same period in human history. It concerns your diaphragm and what a 1.5 million year old breathing pattern does to you the moment a threat is perceived. That one is already built. If you are not present for it, you are missing knowledge your body is already using. What you have in your body is the accumulated result of every survival decision your lineage made across 2 million years. Learning what it was designed for is not optional. It is the most practical thing you can do with the time you have in it.